with it. Okay. Okay. Now tell me, what do you know about animal kingdom? Quickly, all of you. At least one answer from everyone.
They're heterotrophic.
They are heterotrophic. And are all animals heterotrophic?
No, sir.
No. Then which animal is autotrophic? Who said no? Someone said no, right? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So which animal is autotrophic? Go back to the table that we made in the beginning of the 5 kingdoms. What was the basis of that table? Did I say that any animal is autotrophic there? No, right?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
All animals are heterotrophic.
Heterotrophic.
When you remember something, be firm with your knowledge. All animals are heterotrophic. That's why they are in animal kingdom. If something is behaving like an animal, which is a multicellular thing, which is autotrophic, it will go to plants. You have to not forget the basics. If something is multicellular and autotrophic, it goes to plants. If something is multicellular and heterotrophic, it goes to animals. And if something which is not defined between the two very clearly, goes to protista. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So let's start with kingdom Animalia. It's called. Now, do you remember when we go from kingdom downwards? Now from this class onwards, we will study in detail. For rest of the 3 classes, we did not go to kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But kingdom Planta and Animalia will study in detail because it's asked and it's important for you to know as a doctor and a biologist. So after a kingdom, what comes? Phylum, right? You remember kingdom, phylum, class,
Order.
kingdom, phylum, class, order,
Yes,
family,
sir.
genus,
Family,
and
genus.
species. Okay, you have to remember this. Now, when we classify kingdom Animalia, anything, give me one example of an animal. What is an animal? If I ask, dog,
Yes, sir.
and what are all animals?
Dog, cat,
Yes,
elephant,
elephants, and
fishes,
and and what? Sorry, I could not hear it. What all are animals? I'm just asking animals. Only these 3 are animals: dog, cats, and elephants. Come on, we have more animals.
leopard,
Leopards. We are only telling which are very obvious animals we see around. Leopards are animals. Is a cockroach an animal? Cockroach, is it an animal or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Mosquito?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Parrot?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Fish?
Yes, sir.
Turtle?
Yes, sir.
Butterfly?
yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So all these are animals. We often in our normal language call butterfly as not as animal. No one says, I saw an animal today. What was it? It was butterfly. Whenever we say animal in our day-to-day language, everyone thinks it's either cat, dogs, elephants, leopards, the kind of answers we were getting in the beginning. Okay? Which animal you went to see in the zoo? No one says, I went to see a butterfly. They say, I went to see a cheetah, leopard, panther, things like that. But all of them are animals, but all of them are very different. Dogs are very different from butterfly, or from a fish, or from a turtle, or from a parrot, right? or
Yes,
mosquito,
Yes, sir.
which is a big problem, or cockroaches which roam around in our house. We never see them as animals. They are just mere, like we call it, they are insects. But insects come under kingdom Animalia. So first we have to understand the basis of dividing animal kingdom. You remember, for every kingdom we did that there has to be a basis on which we divided into different classes or categories.
yes,
For-
sir.
So that's also true for kingdom Animalia. So write down basis of classification. What is the basis of classification for kingdom Animalia? Now, when we speak about basis of classification, we, we have to first understand that animals are classified on some very major things, or some very major features which other kingdoms were not classified on. Okay, because animals have a lot of diversity. Remember when I told you about Monera, I said that they are all bacteria. Whether they are RK or eubacteria, they are bacteria, we know that. When I talk about Protista, it's like something is common, like they're a single cell, or they do not have a fixed body or something like that, right? They were all aquatic, for example. For fungi, the mycelium and the structure was overall kind of similar, not same. But for kingdom plant and Animalia, things are very different, okay? Especially for Animalia. There's the most diverse kingdom in terms of looks. So write down the basis of classification also has to be very, cannot be superficial. It has to be very deep rooted. So features like, write down first is the level of organization or the arrangement of cells. So arrangement of cell is one basis. When I say arrangement of cells, I mean level of organizations only. It's just a different term given. Or symmetry of body. Then there is something called coelom. So the nature of coelom. I'll tell you what is a coelom. Every animal has a coelom. Okay, we'll talk about it. What is coelom? But this is one feature. And then we go to the types of systems later on. Now, these type of systems, the most important systems that we study is circulatory, digestive, and reproductive. Other systems are also important, but these are the defining ones. So you see that we started with arrangement of cells, something very basic, right? Very fundamental. Then we went on to how they would look. What is the symmetry of the body? Then we went something anatomical, which is inside, coelom. And then we went something which is very functional, like physiological, which is the systems. So we cover everything, all aspects, not just the visual aspect or the anatomical aspect, but all to classify animals. Okay. Now, what do we mean by first? Let's start with first, which is your arrangement of cells or the level of organization. Kindly, this I have completed, so I will not spend much time on it. So anyone will tell me quickly, what do we mean by
Tissue level organization or
yes.
organ level organization.
So level of organization means to which level the animal is developed to, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it just at a cellular level, or it has gone beyond it and it has formed tissues, or the tissues have also gone beyond and formed organs and organ systems and so on, right? That is called levels of organization. So write down quick things about this. Just write down points. First level of organization can be cellular. When I say cellular, which means that loose cells live together, but still they are cells, right? They live together as one colony, one multicellular colony, and to someone looking from outside will see that, oh, this is an animal with a multicellular feature. But actually, if you go down to each cell, every cell is independent and taking care of itself. It is not dependent on any other cell. So that level is called a cellular level or loose aggregation of cells. You know which animals come in this category? How many of you have seen a cartoon called SpongeBob SquarePants?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Who is-
sir.
Who's SpongeBob? The animal,
Sponge.
plant, algae, what?
He's a sponge.
He's a sponge. And when we say he is a sponge, we are wrong because sponge can never be he or she. Sponge can only be it. So it is a sponge. And sponge is not even an organism because it has a cellular level. These are just loose cells. Have you seen a sponge which comes to wash the dishes, like the artificial sponge,
Yes, sir.
which
Yes,
has been
sir.
made seeing these natural sponges? So these natural sponge are just very spongy substances. They are all cells living together, okay, in a colony. So sponges are animals actually, very interesting animals which live together as colony and seems to be multicellular, but they do not have the level of organization is not beyond cellular. Now, do you find what was illogical in that cartoon? What was not scientific? Of course, cartoons never have to be scientific. That's why they are called cartoons. But SpongeBob has eyes and hands and legs, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and those are organs. So can a sponge have any organ?
No, sir.
No, it's just a aggregation of random cells, random sponges. So this is called cellular level. Next, we go to tissue, right? On tissue level of organization. So tissue level, which means cells comes together to form more diverse functions, okay? And from tissue, we will move to organ level. And from organ level, we move to organ system level. Okay. Right. Now, we will study about it all in detail, but let's just first go through it. So something which only, do you know something which only shows a tissue level of organization? Any organism? And just organ and just system. So for organ, let me tell you, it's very easy. Organ means those organisms which develop organ, but there are no, all the organs do not fit in a system. Okay. So write down for organ, there are members of platyhelminths. Platyhelminths, which shows organ level. They have developed organs but not systems. Okay. When we come to organ systems, anything above platyhelminths, which is like, you see earthworms around you, they are very simple organisms, right? They don't have hands and legs
Yes, sir.
and eyes, but you know, they have organ systems. They have a circulatory system inside. They have a reproductive system inside them. So from here, system starts, organ system. Okay. Now we'll come to all of it later, but let's just first divide kingdom Animalia so that we can understand it better. Let's make a flow chart. So I will be making a flow chart like this. Let's start from, I'm saying something as Animalia. You also need a space. You need big space to make this chart. So everything that comes under Animalia, what is one feature, one defining feature, and this is at the level of kingdom. Animalia. Defining feature is that they all are multicellular and they all are heterotrophs. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Defining. Now, from kingdom, we go to level of organization. First thing is level of organization. How is this kingdom divided? Now, on the basis of level of organization, we can either go to the first one, which is called the cellular level. This diagram everyone should remember by heart. Now, cellular level means I already told you about sponges. So, and what is the other one? Apart from cellular, we keep all other in the same category because there is no clear-cut distinction. So we cannot say that something has just made tissues and not making organs, or something has just make organs and not making systems. We can say that in terms of some, like platyhelminthes, as I told you, but not for all. So tissue, organ, or system level comes together. Is it clear? This is at the level of
Yes, sir.
organization. Now, as we move forward, we need something to define between these further. So next division comes on the basis of symmetry. Okay, on the basis of symmetry, all these cellular organisms, like, which are just group of cells, do you think so? Symmetry is like body axis. So if I tell you about what is a symmetry is how a body looks like. And symmetries can be of different types. First of all, those which have cellular level of organization have no symmetry. Do you think sponge have any shape?
No, sir.
Sponges don't have any shape. Like SpongeBob is square, but it does not mean sponges are square. Sponges do not have any shape. They can just grow like random shapes. So in terms of symmetry, they are asymmetrical. They do not have any symmetry. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
In terms of tissue, organisms which show tissue organ, and there can be two different types of symmetries. One which is more primitive, like more you go back into evolution, is called radial symmetry. Now, what do we mean by radial symmetry? Radial. It comes from the word radius. What is a radial symmetry? Which shape has radius?
Circle.
Exactly. So
Sphere.
they are circular. Circular. So they are circular in shape. Have you seen a starfish?
Yes, sir.
What is the symmetry? How does it look? Does it look radial to you?
Yes, sir.
Like it look like circular,
Yes.
right? Okay, we'll come to it. But starfish, which symmetry does it possess? Second is a bilateral symmetry. What do you mean by bilateral?
Equal halves.
Exactly. Bi means
2.
two. Lateral means sides. So you can divide it into two sides which are equal. Humans have bilateral symmetry. If you just draw a line at the center of our body axis, our left half is similar to our right half, right?
Yes, sir.
But not anatomically, just morphologically, like from outside. Inside, we are not bilateral because some organs are just single, like liver is only present on the right hand side, stomach is only present on the left hand side, lungs are present in each half, both in each half, but heart is on the left side, tilted towards left, right? That's why left lung is slightly smaller to accommodate for the heart. So anatomically, we are not bilateral, but physically we are bilateral. The symmetry is bilateral. So symmetry always come at outside, like the morphological level. Then we go to the coelom. Remember I told you coelom? Now what is a coelom?
Yes, sir.
Write down, a coelom is a body cavity. Do you think our body has a cavity? Cavity means empty space. Coelom means body cavity. Write down, coelom means body cavity. Every animal's body has a cavity. So our body has cavity, right?
Yes, sir.
How our body has cavity? Let's talk about first our cavity. Where is cavity in our body?
Mouth.
Mouth is oral cavity. We call it cavity. Yes, right. And
Stomach.
Sir, teeth.
teeth. Oh, you're talking
Yeah,
about
teeth.
you're talking about teeth cavities that happen. That we call cavities because there are spaces that come inside the teeth. Because some agent or bacteria is degrading your teeth and there is a hole in the teeth. That is called teeth cavity. It's a problem. It's a disease of your oral cavity.
Okay.
But you're right. It's also a cavity because it's an empty space. Cavity simply means empty space or a body, an empty space in the body. So that's why it's called coelom. So let's first talk about it because something is cellular level, and because there is cavity can only arise when tissues come together to form organs, and certain organs have space from different organs, and there is a cavity in between, right? So for
Yes, sir.
sponges, for cellular level, which is asymmetrical, they do not have any cavity. So they are called acoelomates. Acoelomates means they do not have any cavity. They are without cavity. Just like asymmetrical, they are acoelomates as well. Okay. And on this basis, we finally, so we started with kingdom here. Okay. Animalia. And on certain basis, we are keeping on dividing it, and we will finally reach to certain phylums, which is the next step, right? Kingdom makes phylums. There are many phylums which come under one kingdom. So how animal phylums are divided, we are studying that. So if something is cellular, asymmetrical, and acoelomate, it comes under the first phylum of animal kingdom, which is called Porifera. Phylum Porifera or Poriferans. Sponges are poriferans. Here. Can you all see me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So,
Yes, sir.
and we will write some examples. Yeah. Okay. Sponges are examples. Okay, sponges are poriferans. They are the first phylum. You understand now? Now, we come to this, the radial one. Now, there are organisms which have a tissue, organ, or in very rare cases may have a system, but mostly they don't have a system. They have tissues and organs, and they are of radial symmetry. And when it comes to coelom, they also do not have a coelom. Like they are also acoelomate. They do not have a true body cavity, any body cavity. So now you remember that, now you understand that animals without body cavity can also be asymmetrical, and animals without body cavity can also be radial, right? And it's very important to
sir.
differentiate between the two. If something is asymmetrical and acoelomate, it is called poriferans. Keep remembering this because this is how they ask in entrances. An organism which is acoelomate and asymmetrical belongs to, there will be 4 options. So it belongs to porifera. An organism which is radial and acoelomate does not belong to porifera. It belongs to other phylums. So in this also there are 2 phylums, write down. Second one is called Cnidaria. There is another name given to Cnidaria in your NCERT. Coelenterata. Comes from the word coelom. Coelenterata. Coelenterata or Cnidaria is the same thing. And your jellyfish comes in this. Do you remember jellyfish? Anyone has
Yes,
seen
sir.
jellyfish? Jellyfish seems radial. If you see jellyfish from the top, it's like a big bulb and all the things are animating from it. Am I correct?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
like in books and all, you have seen like jellyfish, they will show like
Your
it's
voice-
sometimes I was thinking it's pink and all. Hello?
Your voice
Sir,
is
can you
breaking,
hear me?
Aisha. I could not understand. Yes, I can hear you, but I could.
Sir,
Yes.
hello sir.
Yes, yes.
Actually, Bihar and here there is net issue. Sir, I was saying, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, just repeat
Yeah.
your question.
So, sir, I was saying that like sometimes jellyfish, like I was thinking they're light pink and all, but like when I went to the beach, I saw it from the near. It was something like white color. Can you say one? Like all the jellyfishes were white. They were not having any other color other than white. Like it was like white only. Yeah.
No. Jellyfish comes in a lot of different varieties. There are different jellyfish, and many times jellyfish are very, very venomous in nature. They are very poisonous also. The most potent, one of the most potent poison or a venom in biological world comes from box jellyfish. There is a jellyfish which is called box jellyfish, and it stings. That's why the word Cnidaria, we will talk about it later, and we will talk about jellyfish of all sorts. So we are going to study every phylum in detail. Don't worry. Okay, so we'll come to jellyfish. So can I keep your question about jellyfish, Aisha, for later time when we come to Cnidaria? Is it fine?
Yeah, sure, sir, sure.
Yes, okay. But just to give you a brief answer, yes, they come in all different shapes and sizes and colors as well. Okay. So acoelomates which are radial can either be Cnidaria, and they are called Cnidarians because of a reason which we will discuss, and something which is slightly similar to it is, which is not Cnidaria, is called Ctenophora, where C is silent. Okay. Ctenophora. So these two phylums, and I'm not giving you examples here because the examples are just like similar to jellyfish, but we will come to it in later detail. So there are two phylums, Cnidaria and Ctenophora, which emerge from radial symmetry. These are the only two radial symmetry phylums, and in none of the phylums starfish comes. Okay, so starfish comes in a phylum for which we already know that there is a bilateral symmetry, and it also holds true for starfish, because starfish is something like this, right? See, I'm making a starfish here. Is it something
Sir.
like this?
Yes, sir.
Just one second. Okay. So we can also say that it's fitting a radial symmetry, right? But if
Yes,
we
sir.
divide it from the center, we can also say that this half is equal to this half, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for this kind of organism like starfish, we will go to some other features before putting it into one with the radial symmetry, because we have seen that mostly organisms with radial symmetry are acoelomates, whereas starfish is a coelomate. It has a coelom. Starfish is not a acoelomate, it's a coelomate, hence it cannot be put here, either in Cnidaria or Ctenophora, even if it shows a radial symmetry from one side, but it also shows bilateral symmetry. Okay, all radial things can be divided into bilateral things. So if a circle, if you say it's a radial symmetry, I can say if you cut it into half, it's a bilateral symmetry. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
But all bilateral symmetries are not radial symmetries. Do you understand the difference?
Yes, sir.
In animals? Exactly. Yes, Omar, I'm coming to it. Yes, Omar, please tell me.
Okay, sir, can you please check the chat?
Yes, I can. Place the images there. That's why I can use the chat. Is there any issue, Omar?
Sir, scroll up.
Okay. So, but is it like is it your LearnView exam or is it your school exam?
Sir, school exam.
Okay, then it's up to you to make the decision. But then make sure that you make up for this part.
Sir, I will. Sir, I will ask Nishkar sir for the recording.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, sir. Can I leave?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Though I don't encourage leaving classes in between, but please, if someone wants to, we cannot leave them without their will. Okay, so let's move forward. So we have what I was saying. Sorry. So even radial symmetries can be said to have bilateral symmetries, because there is an inherent bilateral symmetry in a radial symmetry. Going by, in your earlier primary classes, you must have heard of shapes, geometries, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So something which is radial can also be called bilateral, but everything which is bilateral cannot be called radial, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's the fundamental here. So this is, we reached till third phylum. So these three phylums comes under asymmetrical and radial, but all are acoelomate. So we have not started with any single coelomate till now. This is where we now come to bilateral symmetry. Now in bilateral symmetry, thing is that there can be three possibilities. The first possibility is that even a bilateral symmetry will not have a body cavity, which is again, it can be acoelomates. I hope you all are following. Please pay attention. And that's why I'm making it like this, because it makes me easier to make you understand that acoelomates can be asymmetrical symmetry, radial symmetry, as well as bilateral, because they are the most primitive organisms in evolution. And if a bilateral symmetrically organism having a tissue, organ, or a system level organization which is acoelomate, then we place it in a different phylum called, the fourth one here, is called Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes. Now the word platy means flat. The word platy means flat. So I always try to connect it to something that you are aware of. Have you heard of this one organism called duck-billed platypus?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So that's also important. It's a duck. It's a duck with a flat beak. So ducks normally have beaks like bird, but there is a duck which has beak like this. So this is one thing I'm using to explain you. So it has a beak like this, like a very flat beak like this. Have you seen a duck with a very big flat beak?
Yes,
It's a
sir.
very famous cartoon character as well. A yellow flat beak,
Yes, sir.
very long one. That is called duck-billed platypus. So the name platypus comes from the fact that it has a flat beak, platypus. So Platyhelminthes again means flat worms. And these are also the organisms which come under this phylum. So write down Platyhelminthes, right? Flat worms. In this one example is your tapeworm. Remember tapeworm? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Tapeworm is present in your intestines. We have tapeworms in our intestines which live with us as parasites, endoparasites, but do not harm us much. But they take little food from our food and survive there. Sometimes someone can have a tapeworm which is like even as long as the intestine itself, but it is very coiled and lives in a very small space. So flatworms, Platyhelminthes is one. Tapeworm is one example. But if a bilateral symmetry is coelomate, okay, then there is a different story. Now, after acoelomates, biology do not directly jumps to coelomates. So either you don't have cavity or you have cavity. Logically it sounds the best scenario. Like it's like you don't have a 1 rupee coin or you have a 1 rupee coin. This is how normally things work in life, right?
Yes, sir.
But biology is not 0 or 1. It is evolved, right? Those organisms which have cavity now, they have evolved from the common ancestors of those organisms which did not have cavity. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
We did not evolve from acoelomates. We and acoelomates sometime in very back in the evolutionary past were having a common ancestor. Okay. So nothing evolved from anything. There were common ancestors through which divergence started. It's like a tree. Evolution is like a tree. When a tree grows, there is a trunk. Then there are multiple branches arising from one common point, right? And even when two branches differentiate, they differentiate from one common point. And then those two branches can also go and diverge again. So if I ask you the top branch, where does it come from? It will be difficult for you to tell me. You can only go back and trace the lineage. You can say that this branch was having a common point with this branch. in the past. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So just after acoelomates, we did not jump to coelomates. There is one thing which is in between, which I don't know if it's covered in NCERT or not, but it's called pseudocoelomates. The word pseudo means
False.
yes. Now I am saying that something is pseudocoelomates, which means it is having a false body cavity. Just write it on the top of it. False body cavity. Now, what do you mean by false body cavity? Either you will have a body cavity or you will not have a body cavity. You know, what do you mean by false body cavity? Confusing, right? Okay,
Yes, sir.
we'll study about it. And I'll tell you how do we. So for this, we have to define body cavity and where does it arise from. But we'll go later into the detail. And first, completing the chart, okay? So these pseudocoelomates organism, which is the fifth phylum which comes here, which is known as Aschelminthes. ASCHEL Minthes. Platyhelminthes, Minthes means worms. Helminthes or Minthes means worms. So Platyhelminthes are flat worms. Aschelminthes are round worms. We also have round worms in our stomach, which are sometimes parasitic in nature. Have you seen someone, you must have heard or seen or known someone who get worms in the stomach. Then we
Yes,
take
sir.
the treatment for deworming. We take some medicines or eat some, drink some syrups to deworm the organism, the human. So those worms which starts developing and starts causing problem are these roundworms. They are more fierce parasites, which are actually harmful and can cause diseases and also all sorts of disorders. Flatworms, which is tapeworm, can go unnoticed throughout your life. You can have a tapeworm in your intestine which you are not aware of, and you will never be aware of it. You will live with the tapeworm and you will die with the tapeworm. So that's yours. So the fifth is called Aschelminthes, which contains roundworms, which is a pseudocoelomate. This is one very interesting phylum. So make a star on it. We'll study about it. Next, we come to coelomates. Finally, we come to organisms in terms of coelom, which have a true body cavity. They are called coelomates. On the top, you can write true body cavity. So no body cavity and true body cavity. And there we can start with a lot of phylums comes. The sixth phylum is Annelida or annelids. These are the actual real worms which we see in our life, like a earthworm. Do you know earthworm?
Yes, sir.
Earthworm comes under annelids. Just to give you reference, I'm giving one example. And next we come to next, like arthropoda. Next phylum is arthropoda, annelids, and then arthropods or arthropoda. The word arthro means arthritis. The word arthro means
Bone.
joints. The word arthro
Joints.
means joints. Poda means or pods means legs or appendages.
Yes, sir.
Arthropoda means those who have joint appendages. So all your insects, all insects come under arthropoda. And all spiders. Now you must be thinking why I'm writing spiders differently. Are spiders insects? No.
Yes.
No, spiders are not insects. Okay? And that is where you have to understand the concept of insects and spiders when we'll come to arthropods. Let me just introduce you. All insects have 3 pair of legs or appendages. You
Yes,
see
sir.
an ant, you see a butterfly, you see a cockroach, you see a mosquito. All of them will be having 6 appendages in total. How many spiders have?
8.
8. So that's why they are not called insects. They are called arachnids. They have a different class under the phylum Arthropoda, okay, for themselves. Some spiders can be as big as, you know, a chicken. They are called giant tarantulas, which live in Amazonian regions. And these giant tarantulas can actually prey on mouse. They can even kill a mouse and eat a mouse. So they are very big spiders, and they can weigh up to 1.5 to 2 kgs. That's why spiders are not insects. Okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
But it comes under the phylum Arthropoda, both insects and spiders, because both of them have joint legs. So if you see the structure of their legs, so this is the body, okay, this is the head, and their legs looks like this, right? So at different points they are joined. So you will see a joint is here, here. Does it make sense what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, sir.
It makes like someone has assembled them together. There are different joints at different regions. We also have joints in our hand, but our joints are internal. So in our finger, there are 3 joints. So for this finger, there is a joint here and a joint here, where we have markings in terms of lines also, right? But these joints are internal. That's why we can fold from here and here. You can never fold your finger from in between. Can you? No, right?
No, sir.
Because there is no joint. But the joints are not visible on the outside. That's why our appendages do not look jointed together. It looks like one single unit which can be bent, right? Because the skin is
Yes, sir.
continuous. The skin is continuous. Whereas for a spider or an insect's leg, it is not continuous. Sometimes it's also possible you will see a spider or an ant whose leg will just broken from this point. The leg will look something like this. One part, second part, and the third part, right? And it's broken from here. So the leg just looks like this. These 2 parts are gone. Possible, okay? So they come under Arthropoda. Will you remember this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, we move on to what is happening to the next, write down mollusca. Mollusks. Not right. Let me just reconnect my stylus. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
I don't know due to what reason my stylus is not here. You can see the stylus, right? Can you see the point of my stylus on the screen?
No, sir.
Yeah, I can see it. Right. Okay, let's just keep on going on a vocal mode for some time. Technology. I'm just reconnecting my stylus. Just give me 1 minute, everyone.
Okay, sir.
Hello, am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Am I also visible to you all?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the whiteboard, everyone? Hello,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
can you
sir.
see the whiteboard? I think it's not the issue of the stylus, it's the one note that has a problem. Okay, so we'll continue on whiteboard, okay? Just try to. Okay, so let's continue. So you must have made the figure where it's like, so we were talking about coelomates, right?
Yes, sir.
For the coelomates, I was telling you that there are certain phylums. The first one, which was actually the, which phylum was it?
Annelida?
Sixth phylum, right?
Yes, sir.
Which was Annelida. Sixth one was Annelida. Then we have the seventh that we talked about, which was Arthropoda.
Arthropods?
And then there's another one which is
Mollusca.
called mollusca or mollusks. For mollusca, we come to mollusks basically means soft body, like very slimy and soft body. So the word mollusca comes from soft body. Okay. Now, as I told you, you have insects and spiders in this as examples. You have earthworms in this as examples. For mollusca, write down, octopus, the body of the octopus is very soft. Anyone has seen octopus?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen snails? Snails also have very soft body, though they live in a shell which is hard, but their body is very soft, just like with no bones inside, right? So they come under mollusca. And then there is a ninth phylum, which is called Echinodermata. Now the word echino comes from spines. Echino. Wherever you hear the word echino or echino, it means spine-like structures. You know what is spines? Thorns-like structures. On
Yes,
a
sir.
surface, something is like a spine. That is called echino. And dermata means skin surface. Have you heard dermatology? Sometimes
Yes,
doctors
sir.
becomes dermatologists. What do dermatologists do? They are skin specialists. They talk about skin infection, skin grafting, skin surgery. So they all come under skin dermatology. So echinodermata is where their skin surface is having some spiny things on it. Okay, and your starfish comes under echinodermata. Because if you see the surface of your starfish, if this is a starfish, you see the surface, you will see that the surface is something like this, right?
Yes,
the,
sir.
the surface is not very smooth. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The surface has some spiny edges on a starfish, like this. So that comes under echinodermata. And then the 10th phylum is hemichordates. Hemichordata. Now in hemichordates, the word hemi means hemisphere. You must have heard the word. What does the word hemi means?
Half.
Yes. Hemi means half. Hemisphere means half sphere. So hemichordates, the word chordate means which have a notochord. Hemichordates are those organisms which, you know what is notochord? Notochord. Do you have notochord in your body?
Yes, sir.
There are three terms: notochord, nerve cord, and vertebral column or vertebrates. So vertebral column is that bony structure which runs through our spine, which we call our spine, right? 33 bones
Yes, sir.
stacked together to make a human spine. Notochord is that muscular region which is present just at the, so notochord later on develops to become spine, but when we are developing, as our body is developing, all our back muscles. So have you seen a human musculature? Like if I try to make a human musculature, I'm talking about the muscles. So our back and our abdomen has lots of muscles, right? Because
Yes, sir.
if you see our body, we have lot of bones in our head, in our hand, and our feet. We don't have lot of bones in our central part, the abdominal part. Only the ribs are there, right? And the ribs
Yes, sir.
come from the front and joins in the back. They make a cage. That's why we call them rib cage. So if you see the backbone of a human, so there'll be a backbone and there'll be ribs, right? Which are coming from the front and joining in the backbone like this. And the last two ribs are actually floating. They are floating.
Yes, sir.
They are floating on the front side, not at the back side. At the back side, they all are joined. But on the front, you will see, if you see from the front, there are two ribs which are just floating. They do not come and join in the front. They fall short. So this is about the bone structure. But also, if you see the musculature also looks something like there is a central axis and all the muscles arise from here. If you have seen bodybuilders, you will see their muscle flex. And all the muscles tend to arise from a center point, right? So there is this
Yes, sir.
big muscle, a shoulder muscle, that is attached to this center. Then there is these back muscles which are attached to this center. So this region is called notochord, which allows for all the muscles to come and attach in the center point. Now hemichordates are organisms which did not have a notochord throughout their life. They have notochord, but at some point of their life cycle, then they lose it. Is it clear? They're called
Yes, sir.
hemichordates. About the example, we'll learn later. Balanoglossus is one example, but since you are not aware with that organism, we will study later on. And the last phylum which we have to study is chordates, which have a complete notochord throughout their life cycle. Okay, and in chordates, all our high order organisms come, like chimps and humans. Okay, they come under chordates. Now this is the phylum. So how many phylums are there in total?
11.
7. 11.
11.
Yes. So there are 11 phylums. So just repeat the names of the phylums again for me. It's Porifera, which is just look at the overall chart that you have now made. I'm giving you 2 minutes to just appreciate the whole chart and figure out which is placed where in that chart. So we have reached till phylums. And also make a star on echinodermata, because we put it under bilateral symmetry, remember? But there are also
Yes, sir.
echinoderms which are showing radial symmetry, like starfish, right? So just write down in front of echinoderms that they may exhibit both radial and bilateral symmetry depending on the stage of the life. Depending on the stage of the life.
Sir, could you repeat the sentence?
They may exhibit both radial and bilateral symmetry depending on the stage of their life. Like they are adults or they are newborns or they are like that. Okay. So in different stages, they may have different symmetries. Just only for echinoderms, that is special. That's why I said make a star. Okay. So you are in the 2-minute period. Everyone is clear with this schematic, the overall schematic for animal kingdom? Or anyone has any doubts?
Yes, sir.
Anyone has any difficulty in understanding anything? Just ask me right now. No difficulty?
No, sir.
Okay. So we realized that in terms of level of organization, it can be either cellular. Now there is unicellular word will not be used because we have moved on to animals and they are multicellular. So even in multicellular, the organization can be, the basic is cellular organization where each cell is independent of each other but living together, okay, like sponge. Then tissue, organ and organ system. In terms of symmetry, there are three types. Sorry, there are two types. Three types: asymmetrical, radial symmetrical and bilaterally symmetrical. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now write down, I will understand some, I'll make you. Remember I told you about this coelom. Where does this coelom comes from, right? So to understand coelom, before we move to each phylum, to understand coelom, we have to understand germ layers. Write down germinal layers. What are these germinal layers? Sometimes they are also called germ layers. So when, remember I told you about fertilization. When fertilization happens, there are two gametes that fuse together to make a zygote. Remember, every concept is relating in
sir.
biology, so don't forget it. Yes, Maria. And then what did I say? That zygote becomes embryo, right?
Yes, sir. Multicellular.
Yes. In that embryonic stage, what happens is the embryo divides in a very peculiar manner. An embryo, when it divides, it forms an outer layer of cells. These are the cells present in the outer layer. And then there are cells which form the bulk, a mass of cell in the dorsal region or the lower region. And on this region, there is a cavity. There is nothing. This is like how an embryo looks. It takes the shape like this first. Okay. And from this shape, what happens is it keeps on dividing and elongating to fold on itself to make different layers. You know, our body has three basic layers. First layer is, there are three types of germinal layers. First is called an ectoderm. The word derm always means with the layer of the skin. So here it's not about the skin, but it's about the layer. Ecto means ecto.
Inside.
Outside. Ecto means outside. It's the outermost layer that is formed from this embryo. And at this stage, of the embryo is called a blastula. Not important to remember, just I'm putting context so that you understand from where the layers arise. So multicellular things, just like remember how many of you have made a dough from the atta or the flour. From the flour, if you put water in it and make a dough.
Yes, sir.
Have you doughed a flour to
Yes,
make
sir.
chapatis? When you dough it, after doing it, you can give any shape to it, right? Most of the time, what we do, we give it a square, circular shape to make a roti. But suppose you are making a roti, a chapati. So how many of you have made a chapati? You know, making chapati is a very good thing. Kitchen teaches you a lot of science. All of you have made
Yes,
chapati
sir.
at some or the other point in your life.
Yes, sir.
I make excellent chapati. So when we make chapatis, if I just make a round chapati and then fold it to make a tube, can you understand? It's a round
Yes.
thing. I fold it to make a tube hollow from inside. You know, and then I press it and make it flat. A cylinder which is flat. Are you imagining with me?
Yes, sir.
I make a gold chapati, a round chapati. Then I made a tube out of it. Then I pressed it to make it flat. Then I start folding it onto each other. I'm folded it in half. Now, how many layers are there?
4.
Basically, there are just 2 layers. They're just folded on each other.
Yes, sir.
So whenever in biology we talk about layers, we only have to talk about the basic layers which form the fundamental. If they're folded onto each other, it is still the same layer, right? The 2 layers which are inside are still the same layer because they were continuous like this, and then they got folded onto each other. But the inner layers are still the same layer, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you imagine, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Similarly, when these embryos folds, because there are a lot of folds which takes place in the embryo to make head, arm, and other organs, there are 3 layers which are formed. And the first one is ectoderm, which is actually the outermost layer of the embryo. If something is outermost of the embryo, now again coming back to chapati. Suppose, so this was the tube. Can you see my hand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was the tube. Then I flattened it. It becomes something like this, right? My hand is the tube. Suppose this side is the outer layer and this side is the inner side. And I folded it like this, where the outer layer goes inside. Now, for the embryo, this is the outer layer, ectoderm. But for the organism, where it is it outside the body or is it inside the body?
Inside.
Inside. Understood?
Yes,
But it is
sir.
still the outer layer of the embryo. So similarly, we have to understand ectoderm is the outer layer of the embryo when germ layers are formed. And then is formed a endoderm. Endo means
Inside.
inside. Endoderm. Now, I gave you the example of a cavity which I made through roti, through the chapati, the dough. To make any cavity, you need at least 2 layers, right?
Yes, sir.
One outer and one inner. Is it clear? Flattened together.
Yes.
So if one outer and one inner is flattened together, there is something which can happen in between, right? Sometimes, so these 2 layers are essential. There has to be a outside and there has to be an inside. This is present in all organisms. The third kind of layer arises from their interaction. The ectoderm and endoderm interact together to form mesoderm. Meso means
Middle.
middle, right? Okay. So external or outer layer is ectoderm, internal layer is endoderm, and the middle layer is mesoderm. Now these 2 are fundamental in biology, present in all organisms which can form germ layers. If you are forming layers, at least 2 layers you have to form. You cannot form just 1 layer. There is no concept of 1 layer, right? Even if you take a paper
Yes,
and
sir.
say that this paper has one layer, I can still say it has this outer side and one inner side, right? Nothing can have just one layer. So ectoderm and endoderm are there, and organisms which only have ectoderm and endoderm. If ectoderm and endoderm is only present, we call them diploblastic. Di means two. Diploblastic organisms have ectoderm and endoderm, but they do not have a mesoderm. And if something has all these three layers, then we call it triploblastic. The word triplo means three germ layers. So will you remember what is diploblastic and triploblastic?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, to explain it, I'm just thinking for an analogy. How should I explain to you the coelom? Now, a very simple thing when we look at tube, we always feel that this is the inner layer, this is the middle layer, because we are talking about tube, and this is the outer layer. Now, if I tell you where is the cavity, very intuitively you will say this is the cavity, right? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
When I asked you where is cavity in our body, you said the cavity is the mouth. So our mouth is connected through our digestive system. So mouth goes into the food pipe, it goes into the stomach, then it goes into the intestines, then it goes into the large intestine, and finally it opens into the rectum as the anal opening. So we have a mouth, which is an opening to ingest food, and then we have a rectal opening or an anal opening to discard or excrete waste material, right? So our
Yes, sir.
body has an opening and an opening on both the ends, which is a single tube. In between is a cavity, and both the ends are connected. Is it clear? Same is
Yes,
true
sir.
for all higher organisms like a buffalo, a cat, or a dog. But if I ask you which part do you think is a body cavity or a coelom, intuitively you will think that the body cavity is the one through which our food is passing, correct? Everyone, correct? That is our body cavity?
Yes.
No, that is not our body cavity. We have developed digestive system because there is no other way to develop a digestive system where there is no cavity. For food to go in, we need a cavity, but that is not our body cavity. That is one of system. That is a cavity of digestive system. Do you understand? Everyone with me on the
Yes,
same
sir.
page?
Yes, sir.
From now onwards, you will not think when we say body cavity or coelom in biological terms, you will not associate it with the oral cavity or the buccal cavity or the stomach cavity or the intestine or the rectum. Is it fine? That is just the
Yes, sir.
space which is developed in digestive system. Otherwise, there is no other way to eat food. But that is not our body cavity. That is digestive system's cavity. Make sense? Our body cavity is where most of our organs are present. So if you see a human, let's make a human. So let's say I'm very bad at making human, but let's say this is, so basically this is the buccal cavity. I'm just making the cavities. So we open our mouth, we have teeth on both the ends, then there is a mouth cavity, which is oral cavity. Then we have a food pipe, right? Which goes into a stomach, right?
Yes, sir.
Everyone with me? And then it goes into intestine. And this intestine is very convoluted, right? Something like this, present in our abdomen. This is the small intestine. And then we have a large intestine surrounding the small intestine. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And this large intestine finally comes down and make the rectal opening here. So this is a whole cavity, right? Which is moving and going till here. But where are our organs present? Are Is our body organs, are they present inside this cavity?
No.
This is just the passage for food,
Yes, sir.
nothing else. This is not our body cavity. Our organs are present on either side of this thing. Remember, our lungs are present here in our chest. There is a heart present, and this is stomach. So there will be a liver present here. There will be a pancreas present here. There will be 2 kidneys present on either side. Remember?
Yes, sir.
So all our body organs are actually present on around this single thing which we think normally as our body cavity, which is a wrong thing in biology. Our organs are present in a cavity. So if there was no space in our body, if our body was full of cells, do you think that we will be able to place organs inside? No. Right?
Yes, sir.
So our body cavity, which is called coelom, is the region where our body organs are present. So write down about coelom. Just write coelom. What is a coelom? Coelom is the body cavity present between. Coelom is the body cavity present between now I'm showing a human from the front side. And let's say, for the sake of representation, I am drawing digestive system as a straight line. Okay, everyone? Just for the sake of
Yes, sir.
representation. From mouth till anus, I'm just drawing this cavity, which is very convoluted in a straight line. This is our body wall. What is it? Our body wall, the outer side of our body, the boundary of our body. And this is the gut. What is this? The whole digestive system we can call as gut. Okay. So gut also has a boundary. This is the gut boundary, and this is the body wall, the body boundary. Everything present between the gut and the body wall is called body cavity. Will you remember from now onwards?
Yes, sir.
This is our body cavity where our organs are developed and are present, like our lungs, our heart, our kidneys, our liver, our pancreas, all our organs. Write down, a coelom is a body cavity present between the body wall and the gut wall. The body wall and the gut wall. This body cavity or coelom, is lined by mesoderm. So mesoderm lines our body cavity. Is lined by mesoderm. Okay. So now let me ask you one simple question. If an organism does not have mesoderm, like if an organism is diploblastic, will it have a body cavity?
No.
No, it will never have a true body cavity because it does not have mesoderm to line that cavity. Okay, make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So only triploblastic organisms can have a true body cavity. Okay, and go back to the schematic model that we made, schematic graph, and see how many phylums come under true body cavity. Annelid to chordates, right?
Yes, sir.
Which means that from annelids to chordates, all are diploblastic or triploblastic?
Triploblastic.
Triploblastic. Just mark it there and write it. I did not introduce it there because you will get confused. But now this part is clear to you. You can now say that all our phylums from annelid to chordates are actually triploblastic. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, remember I told you a term called pseudocoelomate.
Yes,
What
sir.
is a pseudocoelom? What is a false body cavity? So even if it is a false body cavity, it is a body cavity, right? It is not acoelomate. So diploblastic organisms will be coelomate or acoelomate. If there are only two layers, will you be able to form a cavity? No, because the third layer is important. Mesoderm lines the body cavity, so you will not be able to form a coelom. So all diploblastics are acoelomate, right? In our
Yes,
phylum,
Yes, sir.
Cnidaria, Ctenophora, and what else? Platyhelminthes. All these three are diploblastic. Remember? Will you remember it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And then in triploblastic, we have two different types. One is coelomate. I just explained you that in coelomates, there is a mesoderm, fully formed mesoderm, which forms a fully functional cavity. True. Now, the term pseudocoelomates, to be a pseudocoelomate, also you have to be triploblastic. Now, pseudocoelomate simply means that you are not able to generate a full, true body cavity, but instead, what you do, you generate body cavities in pouches in different regions. Okay, so write down, in some organisms, the body cavity, bracket mein write coelom. In some organisms, the body cavity or coelom is not lined by mesoderm, but there is mesoderm. Okay, mesoderm is present, but it does not line the body cavity, which means they are triploblastic. Is not lined by mesoderm, but the mesoderm is present. But the mesoderm is present as scattered pouches throughout the body, between the ectoderm and endoderm. Now you can imagine, if there is no continuous mesoderm in our body, there is a continuous mesoderm. That's why we have a continuous body cavity, right?
Yes, sir.
And see, whenever I talk about body, from now onwards, being biologists, when I talk about body, you should never include head, hands, and legs in a body. These are extensions from the body. Okay, our body is down our neck to our lower abdomen, from where legs arise. So if you draw the human body, you see that the bulk is present in the center, and then there are two hands and two legs coming out, and a head is popping up where our brain is, right? Make sense to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But there are cavities all along, even in our head. So you can include head as the body, included for like this purpose. But to simplify, I was saying that our body is just the main axis, the thorax, okay, and abdomen. So if in a body, the mesoderm is not present continuously, but present in pouches, so wherever it is present, it will make a cavity there, right? A
Yes,
local
sir.
cavity, and then a cavity here, and then a cavity here, and then there'll be different cavities at different places. Now, will you call it a true cavity? Is it a true continuous body cavity? No.
No, sir.
No.
But still cavity is there because mesoderm is there. So those organisms we call pseudocoelomates. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And write down example of pseudocoelomate. So coming back to your chart, in that chart, from Ctenophora to Platyhelminthes, everything is diploblastic or acoelomate. What about Porifera? What will be Porifera? They will be acoelomate, pseudocoelomate, or true or coelomate. What will be Porifera? Come on.
Coelomates.
Coelomates. for coelomates to occur, you need 3 layers of the body. For 3 layers, to make 3 layers, you need cells that can make tissues. Can poriferans make tissues? Poriferans are sponges. Sponges are individual independent cells just living together as one colony. Remember?
Yes, sir.
So their organization is acellular. So there is no concept of diploblastic or triploblastic or body cavity arising in them. They do not have a concept of body cavity at all because their each cell is independent. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Cavity can only arise when you can make layers, and layers can only form when you can make tissues, continuous sheet of cells. So it only starts from Ctenophora, the second phylum. The Ctenophora, Cnidaria, and Platyhelminthes are acoelomates because they only have 2 layers in their body. Then comes Aschelminthes, right?
Yes, sir.
Aschelminthes is pseudocoelomate. It has developed a 3rd layer which is not proper. The mesoderm in Aschelminthes, which is roundworms, is not proper, so it is called pseudocoelomates. And everything above annelids is coelomate because they have 3 layers. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So how many layers are important to not make a cavity?
3.
How many layers an organism should have? How many germinal layers an organism should have to not make a cavity?
2.
2 layers. Okay. So never write that the questions will be no layer at all, 1 layer, 2 layer, all the 3 layers. So you will say no layer because no cavity. But remember, 2 layers forms no cavity. The 3rd layer forms the cavity. And if the 3rd layer is present in different pouches, it is called pseudocoelomate, which is Aschelminthes. And from annelid onwards, it is a triploblastic, which is a true coelomate. And poriferans have no concept of coelom because they are cellular organization. Done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I have given you an overall gist in today's class. In the next class, we will be going through these phylums and we'll try to finish as many phylums as we can. And we have to spend some more time on chordate because chordate, again, we have to go into detail because chordates are the one where vertebrates are present. Okay. So we'll go in chordates in detail. So next class is tomorrow. So see you tomorrow and we'll go through the phylums. Please be a little prepared in advance. Go and read because now you know what these phylums are, right?
Yes, sir.
Where do they fall in the classification? So you can just read one paragraph is given about each and all the important things are there. So as an homework, read from Porifera to Annelida. That's all. Porifera to Annelids, we will go together in the next class. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Anyone has any questions regarding today's class? I hope everything was clear. Please keep revising. Otherwise, all my efforts will go in vain to make you understand the biology. Keep
Yes, sir.
revising. Okay. Okay. Good night, everyone. I declare dispersed
Thank you,
for
sir.
today's class.
Good night, sir.
Bye bye. Take care.